Hello and welcome to Yes, You Are Brave. This is a podcast where we're going to set off on a journey together to find and build our brave, where we explore all the ways that you have been brave and all the ways that you can be brave again. Because even though we may have forgotten or we may have fallen out of practice, we're all brave. And I'm on a mission to prove it and help you believe that yes, you are brave. Hello, and welcome back to Yes, You Are Brave. I'm Pawnee. I'm super excited to be here as your host. Let's jump in. Let's talk brave. So today we are talking about being brave enough to learn to sit in the silence. And I realize that sounds a little odd, perhaps. But I was thinking about it. About 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to girls' camp. And girls' camp is we take the youth in the church, the girls, and we go spend 4 days in the wilderness, and it's fantastic and it's fun. It's a lot harder as a leader than it was when I was young. I will tell you that much. But we had a great time. But as we were leaving, and the thing about it was we went up the mountain, and there's no cell service up on the mountain. It's like up and over the mountain, so it's like the backside of the mountain, and there was no cell service, which was lovely. And also, it was lovely, but it was also a little bit difficult. So we were leaving, right? We had packed up all of our stuff. It was the last day. Got everything packed up, everything cleaned up, and we were leaving. And I was riding in a car with one of the other leaders. She was driving. It was her car. And then we had, I think, 4 girls in the back. And as we were leaving, she put on some music as we were driving out. And one of the girls, she's like, oh my gosh, I've missed music so much. I listen to music all the time. Like when I'm getting ready, when I'm in the shower, when I'm, even when I'm falling asleep, she's like, I'm constantly listening to music. I've missed it so much. And well, I understand. And I listen to music a lot as well. Kind of hit me like, does she have the skills to actually sit and be quiet? To sit in the silence? And I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know these girls as well as I would like, but I don't know. But it made me think about like being brave enough to learn how to sit in the silence. And then it brought up the question of like, why don't we sit in the silence? Why are we afraid of the quiet? And it's an interesting question. And I think that like there are times in my life when I have definitely avoided the quiet. I have avoided it because it was hard and it was heavy. And in the quiet, there was no hiding from feelings. And I think that's part of the reason that we do this sometimes is we just fill our lives with all of this noise because it's a constant distraction from the struggle, from the pain, from the hard, whatever it is. We get a constant distraction by all of this noise. And while it's understandable, I would encourage you to build some silence into your day. Because silence is pretty golden when you really think about it and you really take the time. So one of the reasons that I think that we need to take some time for some silence is the world seems like it's moving faster and faster all the time. And I feel like it is just so noisy all the time. And I don't even live in a place that's that big or all that noisy, but there's so much noise all the time. There's cars going by all the time, and you can hear the neighbors sometimes, and there's so much noise. And even in my own home, there's this appliance and that appliance. And I went to my mom's house about 6 months ago, and she lives in the middle of nowhere. And it was so weird to like lay down at night. Also, we were on the second floor, and so we were away from all of the appliances that might make little bits of noise. And it was so quiet, like I almost couldn't sleep because it was just so weird that there wasn't something to like tune out. But let's talk about why we need to build silence into our day. And my first thought was that like creativity comes from being bored, right? So I've thought about this a lot, and I've heard a lot of things like you get creative when you're bored, right? If you're always being entertained, then you don't have a time for your imagination to work. You don't have time for that creativity to spark. And so my first thought is like, oh yes, I love being creative. I love that thing. But sometimes we need to let ourselves be bored in order for that creativity to go, in order for that to happen. And I love that. And that happens in the silence, right? Where, okay, let's find something to do that is meaningful. And the other thing that kind of going along with that is I feel like being creative and things like that is more meaningful than just the consuming whatever it is media-wise, whether it's television or music or social media or whatever. I feel like it's more meaningful, it's more helpful, it's just stimulates our brain in a good way. And so I love the idea of being creative, and I love the idea of having the time and the space to do that. And I think that when we allow silence in our life a little bit, it's more conducive to being creative. So if you want to be more creative, and I feel like when we're more creative, even in just little simple ways, I find myself personally more happier because I feel like I'm doing something. I feel like, and it's not just like that I feel like I'm doing something, I'm actually doing something. Sometimes there's things that we do that we feel like we're doing something, or we can trick ourselves into thinking we're doing something, but we're really not. So, but being creative, even if it's coloring or baking or woodworking, music, whatever it is, there is this benefit of silence. And I feel like also in the silence and in the creativity, that's where we're able to process our difficult thoughts and our difficult feelings, those emotions that maybe are a little bit tricky. And I think that's part of the reason that people avoid silence, to be perfectly honest, is because we don't want to face those things that are hard. And like I said, I've done that before. I know in the months after my father passed away, I avoided silence like the plague. I went straight from, I would stay up really late and just fill my day with noise because the silence was difficult and the silence was hard. And there was no hiding in the silence. So it's fair and it's understandable why we do that as people. But also, maybe we're not giving ourselves a chance to process those things if we're just shoving them aside and allowing ourselves constant distractions. So let that creativity be a time and a place to work through those. Allow that creativity to be there. Let the silence be your teacher of, okay, this is where maybe I am having a struggle and where maybe I need to allow myself to process, to think about this, to maybe even be angry or be sad or whatever it is, and find a way that creatively allows you to process those things. And there's so many different ways. I mean, you've got art therapy, music therapy, all of those things that there are actual therapists that do that. And I think that's amazing. But also, you don't necessarily have to have a therapist, right? If you're somebody who likes to paint or whatever, and you're having a big struggle in your life, give yourself some time and some silence and just let those paintbrushes be your therapy, even if it's not with a therapist, right? We don't always need a therapist to have the therapy part, right? I've found that for me, I haven't developed my musical talents very far. Let's put it that way, okay? I've always loved music. I've always loved listening and playing and those type of things. And so, but one of the things that I've done throughout my life is kind of just play the piano. And it's not really any tune that's recognizable, but I just kind of play kind of by ear. And what I realized a couple of years ago was I was processing emotions through that music in a way that for some reason sometimes I couldn't process them any other way. And I didn't even understand I was doing this until, like I said, just a couple of years ago. But I remember being a teenager sitting down at the piano that was old and out of tune and just playing. And I would feel like I was on this ride. And then sometimes all of a sudden I would hit these notes and it would just be the end. And I would be like, no, I'm not ready for this to end. But like I said, I realize now that was just me processing all of these things I was feeling. And so if you process by however it is you process, but give yourself some time creatively, some silence so that you can process those feelings. We do live in a noisy world, and we live in an easy access world. It's so easy to be constantly distracted. So build it into your day. Also, I did a little bit of research because I was like, am I crazy, or is this something that is actually a thing, right? What are the benefits of silence? And so I just did a little basic Google search, and I would encourage you to do that and maybe read a couple of the things. Now, one of the first things that I thought, I was like, oh yeah, it allows your brain times to process new information as well, right? Even if it doesn't matter what kind of new information it is, the silence helps you process it. But there are so many other benefits as well. Like, it broke them down into 3 categories: the physical health benefits, mental health benefits, and just other benefits, right? And this is just AI summing up all of the Google things, whatever. Physical benefits, though. We all want physical benefits to our health. But some of the physical benefits, it says it lowers blood pressure, reduces stress, improves sleep, brain cell growth, tension relief, hormone regulation. All of these things could possibly come from silence. Just a little bit of silence every day reduces our stress, lowers our blood pressure, and I think that that's amazing. So who doesn't want those? The other thing was mental health benefits. Don't think about how it might affect your mental health for there to be this constant just overload of information and noise that your brain has to process all the time. But one of the things, so mental health benefits, it talked about enhanced focus and concentration, increased creativity, which is what we talked about earlier, improved self-awareness, stress reduction, emotional regulation, mindfulness, and presence. That was the other thing that I think is so awesome, and I think that we need more of, is presence. Like, it is so amazing when you are able to sit in the moment and be present. There's so many things I think we miss by trying to capture the moment, or we're just not living in the moment a lot of times. And I feel like, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like that's one thing I've learned a lot from my husband, is like living in the moment, just being there. I don't have to be thinking about anything. I can just be there. I can be experiencing this moment right now, allowing my mind to be silent, allowing the world around me to be silent. And I think that is huge. Also, the emotional regulation, that was something that was kind of a little bit of a surprise to me, but it makes sense. If you have time to just sit and let things calm down, it can be a huge benefit. When I was teaching at a school for troubled boys, I had this one particular, I taught 6 periods a day, and I had this one semester, I think I had 3 classes back to back. And the second class that I was teaching, the second period, was really just a struggle. There was kids in there that just were more difficult and more challenging. And I don't know, it was just a struggle every single day. And one day, that period ended, and I had a kid who was just like right across the hall. He like came in, and he was just like ready to talk and all these things and be loud. And I looked at him and I said, I need you to just sit down and be quiet for a minute. And he's like, he's like, I haven't even done anything. Like, and I said, I know. I said, I realize you haven't done anything yet. It's not your fault. I said, but last period was kind of difficult, was kind of rough. I said, and I need a minute to I just need a minute. So I said, otherwise, I said, because I don't want to get mad at you for something that you didn't do, because you're right, you haven't done anything yet. I says, but I need a few minutes to just get rid of last period so that you don't get in trouble for things that are not your fault. And it was interesting because he was one of my most challenging kids. But when I told him that, I just need a minute to reset. I know it's not your fault. You haven't done anything wrong, but I need a minute. And he was really respectful of that. He was like, oh, okay. First of all, I think he really liked the idea that he wasn't going to get in trouble for something that wasn't his fault. But he's like, oh, okay. He sat down. The other kids came in, and he's like, hey, guys, she needs a minute. Just like, let's just chill. And it kind of became a thing with that class, is every time they would come in and they would be a little bit quiet. And I was able to sit there at my desk, sometimes eat a little bit of chocolate, sometimes have a drink of water, and just kind of collect myself again so that I could start the class and I could kind of start fresh. So the emotional regulation of silence, I think, is huge. And I hadn't even really realized it until today, but like it does do that for you. It can do that for you. So the other benefits of silence, it says, are that I found were just improved relationships, reduced conflict, creative inspiration, enhanced cognitive function, and spiritual connection. And I don't know if any of those areas in your life might need a little bit of work and a little bit of help, but there's some huge, huge benefits to silence. So I know it's not one of those big, outward, loud, obvious, brave things, but I think that anything that requires us to stretch and to grow requires us to be brave and requires courage. And I think sometimes that means sitting in the silence. Sometimes that means letting ourselves process, even when we know it's not going to be pretty. Because like I said, sometimes we can collect ourselves, and sometimes the silence means we fall apart, and that's okay too. So I would encourage you this week to build some time into your day for some silence. Even if it is, and I realize that not everybody has the time to build lots of silence in. But even if it's your, 15 minutes driving to work in the morning, maybe try some silence instead of the radio. Or maybe it is, you take a shower without the music, whatever it is. Try something that allows for some silence and some space in your life. And I think you will find that it is very helpful. And I would also encourage you to allow those creative things, those processing things, to come up and to happen in the silence as well. Don't reach for your phone. Don't reach for the media thing, the consuming. Reach for the creating if you can't get a chance, and see if that improves your life. And I would love to hear about it. If it does, I will report back, see if we can't spend some time in the silence and see if that will improve our world. So that's what I have for you today. Please take some time to be silent, be brave, sit with those feelings, process them, and remember that you are wonderful and amazing, and you have everything that you need to live a big, bold, beautiful, brave life. You're amazing. You're awesome. I love you. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you feel like could use a little more brave in their life. And if you'd like to follow more of my journey to be brave, you can follow me on social media and the link down below. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to be brave.